Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today is a different project. I am working on a 20 by 10 inch canvas, and this is going to be a project to create a mixed media piece of artwork. So I am creating this for my sister and decided to film the process and see how it went, just for something a little bit different. So I'm starting off by using this black gesso, just a tube of black gesso, and I am having to hold the camera. I apologize because my tripod was in use elsewhere, so I held the camera for that little bit, but I promise that's the last bit of it. And I ended up having to give my canvas 2 layers of black gesso. The black gesso I used for that one was the Art Basics Heavy Black Gesso, and now I am going to use a stencil by the Crafters Workshop called Bricks, coincidentally, and I am just using some texture paste by Ranger, just the white normal texture paste, to add on some bricks around the outside. I kind of end up doing some along the top and kind of in 3 different places on the canvas. I've been doing a lot of card making for the last couple of years, and I have kind of been dabbling in mixed media. I just do it whenever I feel like it, and so I have decided to film this process for this piece of art, and it is a piece that features the street name of where my sister's house is, which is Derwent Street, and that's what she wanted, and she gave me no other clues as to what she wanted, so I'm really just having fun and doing, going where my imagination takes me, really. So, as I said, I'm just putting this brick stencil on around the outside a few times, and I'm going to use a couple of different stencils. As I said, this is the Crafters Workshop one, and I'm putting on the texture paste kind of relatively thick because I do want it to create some good texture for the background. This whole canvas is going to get covered again in black gesso, so it didn't matter the color of the texture paste because it will all be covered up with black anyhow. So I'm just going to add a couple more pieces down the bottom here. This video is much longer than my card making videos, and in fact I think this will have to be in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, so I apologize to those people who like to have shorter videos. I have not videoed any of my mixed media projects before, and as I said, I'm kind of just having fun and decided to film this one, so yeah, I hope someone is interested to see it. This diamond one is a Crafters Workshop stencil as well, called Harlequin, and then I am going to do a couple of pieces around the outside, and I really want the inside to be filled up too with texture behind the letters that is going to say the street name. And so the other stencil that I end up using here, I have 2 of them. I was going to use this one on the left. This is a Hero Art stencil, and it is called the Cubic Background stencil. And I was going to use this one, and then I ended up changing my mind at the last second. So I apologize. I end up using a Deco Art Americana stencil just to cover up the rest of the inside. So just with kind of a nice steady pattern that wasn't going to take over too much. This is definitely one of my favorite stencils. I've used this one so much, and I really like it, just to add some extra interest. So I will leave you to some music every now and then cut in when I can let you know what's happening. Cool, thanks. So as I said, I am just going to cover up this all of this white texture paste with the Art Basics heavy black gesso, and I just have a little foam brush that I'm going to sort of dab my way all the way around and cover up all of the white. I will end up doing several layers of black gesso, and this is just the way that I prefer to do it when I'm trying to cover a whole canvas in black. You can certainly put everything, the texture paste and then all of the elements on, and then at the very end before you would like to color it, that's when you could cover it all in black gesso. But for me, I prefer and find it much easier to do the gessoing as I go, just because I can kind of have more access to all of the little spots, and I seem to have better luck at covering up all of the white and all the different colors that I've used. So this is just the way that I like to do it, but lots of people do it the other way around and just do it all at the end. So I am just finishing up and making sure that I've got a really good layer. I only need to do one layer, as I said, because I will be coming back to it over and over again, and eventually end up covering the whole canvas one final time. So this doesn't have to be perfect, and you can see that it's drying already as I go, and just need to make sure that I have all of the sides covered. I'm not focusing on the sides too much with this canvas, but they still need to look good. So here's where I begin all of my embellishments. I had been throwing things in this wee container for a while, and then I had a whole heap more stuff on my desk. So I will run through them. These are just some little flatback beads. This is some burlap ribbon that I showed in a haul from Aliexpress a while back. Pretty much all of this stuff is from Aliexpress, and I will link as much as I can below in the description box, and if it's not there, then I either couldn't find it, or they're not selling it anymore, or I'm not sure. I couldn't find it. Some little metal embellishments. These are kind of much smaller than I thought they would be, and again, some of these things I end up using on the canvas, and some of them I don't, but these are all just the things that I sort of throw in a box thinking maybe I will, maybe I won't use these, when I was having a play around with what I wanted to go on the canvas. And as I said, there's lots more little things as well. These are these tiny gorgeous glass bottles. I love these, and they do end up making it onto the canvas, so I've got another couple of projects in mind for them too. This is just, that was some self-adhesive texture that I thought I might use. These are some, I think these are used in nail art. They're just tiny kind of micro beads that I end up using. These are brilliant. They are cheap and cheerful off Aliexpress. Some tiny micro beads, and then some ever so slightly larger ones in the little container. And then I have used, these are the letters that I'm going to end up using. Out of some spare packaging, I use the 5cm dies that I purchased from, letter dies that I purchased from Aliexpress, and I showed them in a haul video not too long ago, so I should be able to link them below, but I'll show you them in a minute anyhow. These are some actually Christmas baubles that are like wooden embellishments that I thought I might end up using, and they're quite large. These are some frames. Again, I bought these a little while ago now, and I have used those in some of my projects before, just not on camera. These are some much smaller wooden letters, and then some wooden feathers that I had left over from another project. Then I have some, these are kind of tiny, kind of like glitter. They're just little sort of half stones, flatback stones kind of thing, glittery silver stones. And then I have some brads. These ones are stars in particular, and I end up using some different brads as well that I found lying around. Then I have, these are the 5cm letter dies that I use to create the letters for the name of the street. as I said, I just pulled out a whole heap of random bits and pieces that were lying around my craft station, and yeah, I end up using some and not others. These are just little wooden embellishments, and then these are some paper flowers, little paper flowers, different types, and pretty much all of this, as I said, is from Aliexpress. I also have some googly eyes, which I do end up using on the project, and they look really cool. So I have just got this little container here, and I have a piece of that burlap ribbon that was spare from another project cut off already. So this is just my time to have a play, and I am just sort of putting things down, and I end up changing some bits and pieces, and this is just where it's kind of the fun part. You just get to play around and change things around and see what you want to, what you want your canvas to look like. And so the name of the street that she lives on is Derwent Street. So that was always going to be the focus of the focal point of the canvas. So that is going straight in the middle. And these letters are made up of 4 layers of spare packaging that I cut the letters out of. So I just glued them all together. So each one is 4 layers, so they are quite dimensional. And then I'm just using some of the burlap ribbon, and I'm just using that little nail pot to hold it in place, otherwise it was going to curl up on me. So I've got that little bottle, the little glass bottle, which I'm determined to use, and then some of the little smaller picture frames. I'm kind of creating some corners for the canvas. And then I have lots of wooden embellishments that I showed in a haul not very long ago, maybe only a couple of videos ago. And I was looking here, I got several different types, and swirls and flowers and wings, and I was thinking about using these corners for the other 2 corners of the canvas. So these are all from Ali, and they are much cheaper than other places to buy them, because wooden embellishments can end up costing a lot. So yeah, I'm just having a play. As I said, I'm going to play around with all of these little bits and pieces, and I'll be back with you soon. So once I have some of my embellishments sorted where I want them to go, I'm going to use the same Art Basics Heavy Gesso, which I have nearly emptied the container, the tube, sorry, and I am going to go over all of the embellishments that I think I'm going to use on my project and cover them all. As I said, this is a personal choice. Some people choose to do it this way, and some people choose to just do it once they have everything glued on the canvas. Personally, I find it much easier to do it this way. So I'm just using that same little foam brush and holding it with my tweezers just to save my hands a little bit. And I'm just coating each one around all of the sides, all the keys, all of the little frames, all of the letters, that little glass bottle. And there are some things that I stick on the canvas and I do them in black gesso later on. But yeah, this is just the way that I chose to do it this time around. I have this little self-adhesive sort of mesh. I'm not really sure what it is. It's been in my stash for ever and ever and ever, and I didn't purchase that from Ali. I'm not sure where I got it from. So I'm just cutting out some little spots and putting it around the place. I haven't glued on any of my embellishments. They're all just sitting there kind of in the layout that I think I want them. and I'm just adding in this mesh for some extra texture. Sorry. I am using some Art Basics Heavy Body Gel to stick these down, and I'm using plenty of it, and same with this to stick down the burlap ribbon. I'm just using plenty of this gel, and that will make sure it's a really good adhesive, a really strong adhesive that will make sure that nothing is ever to come off this project. So I am going on top of all of the little pieces as well as underneath, as I said, just to make sure that they are well stuck down, and I'm trying to get the ribbon as straight as I can, pretty much as straight as you can kind of get this ribbon. So as I said, some of my embellishments are already painted black with the gesso, and others I will just have to go over later. So once I have that glued down, I'm just going to put a final piece of this little mesh up the top. And as I said, it is self-adhesive, but I want to make sure these things are not going to come off at all. So I am using the heavy body gel to make sure that that doesn't happen. This gel that I have in particular is, it does dry transparent, but it dries glossy. I have the glossy one. You can buy matte ones as well. So the glue does look glossy when it's dried, and so I will, as I said, have to go over at the very end with a final coat of gesso. So I do end up doing a lot of coats, but that's okay. This was totally just a fun project, and I really enjoyed it. So I am just putting some of the same gel behind every little element to glue it on. That's what I'm using as my main glue, my main adhesive. So just putting plenty on behind everything, and you can see that there are lots of little bits, lots of little white bits sticking out. I do, at the moment, I'm just going around with a paintbrush to clean up some of those little bits. So I kind of just hold the embellishment before it dries and swipe around each one of the embellishments just to get some of the excess glue off, because I end up putting plenty behind each thing to stick it down really well, and then just wipe off the excess. So I'm gluing down the letters, which was the last part that I glued down because I was most nervous about getting it straight and even and all of the above, and in the end I just needed to go for it, and it doesn't really matter. So I will spare you some of it. I just video a little bit of it, kind of each stage, so that you can get the gist of where I'm at, and I hope that it's the right amount for you to get a good idea, and I hope that I'm not doing it too fast or too slow or too boring. So I apologize if it is any of those things. So as I said, I'm just going to make sure all of my embellishments are stuck down and then tidy it up a little bit. So now I am just going to add on a few extra elements. I have got these little Flatback Pearles, which I'm just picking out a couple out of the bag. I am going to stick them on using some matte medium that I have in my little squeezy bottle, and I'm sorry that I'm halfway off the screen, I apologize. This piece of mixed media artwork, I didn't want to make it extremely 3D and super built up. I wanted to keep it not too out there, because as I said, it was just for like a wall piece. It's not meant to be big and thick and crazy. And so yeah, I am going to add a couple of little finishing touches, and I've just put down some heavy body gel, just using a little spatula thing, plastic one, and I'm putting some of these beads down. So these are the slightly larger of the nail beads, and I'm using the little silicone brush that I showed in a haul not too long ago, which is really good when dealing with matte medium and things, and it kind of keeps my fingers out of it. And I'm going to add more of the heavy body gel and around this little bottle, which I have just stuck down anyway, so the glue hasn't dried on the bottle either. So yeah, I'm just adding in a little bit of glue, and then I add in some of the larger beads, and then I'm going to tip some of the really fine micro beads over top, which, as I said, I believe they are for nail art. However, yeah, they work perfectly for what I want them for. So I kind of just stick my silicone brush into the little beads, and it sticks to it just because of the glue that's on there, and then swipe them off around the bottle and build it up a little bit. So it does look, the whole canvas looks like a little bit of a hot mess when the glue hasn't dried, and it all looks a bit crazy, but I promise it will come together. I hope it does. So yeah, I'm just going to add these little beads in a few different places around the canvas. So around the little bottle, and then I add a few more around the frames to kind of highlight these corner pieces. So I just do the same thing. I just put blobs of the heavy body gel, and then I am adding the beads, the larger beads to it, and in a second I'm going to tip these finer beads over top, and then I kind of just use the silicone brush or my finger to kind of push them into the gel medium so that they are forever stuck there. So now, last but not least, I am going to use some of these googly eyes, and I am going to adhere them on using some of the heavy body gel, and I am just putting a few around the place, just here and there. Believe it or not, if you apply some really, really gentle heat using my heat gun to the top of these googly eyes, they sort of puff up. You definitely don't want to go too far, otherwise you will melt them. And so, but they do look really cool if you add some gentle heat. So here it is. I need to wait for it all to dry, and this is the end of part 1. So please come and join me for part 2 so that you can see the final product.